Hey, this is Stu Schaefer, and I'm about to explain the foods that are preventing you from losing weight and burning fat in menopause. Well, in general, but especially in menopause. We're going to go over 5 different subcategories, and so let's just jump right in. Let's look at the first category, certain vegetables. This sounds so weird, but over the last 20 years that I've worked with women, over 40, over 50, over 60, even in their 70s, I found that a lot of times certain vegetables will pop. They'll cause inflammation, which will short circuit the fat burning process. If you cause inflammation, that's going to skyrocket your cortisol, in some cases your adrenaline. It's going to impact your digestion, your gut health. It's going to cause your insulin to go up. All of these factors will prevent you from burning fat. Now, what happens a lot of times is a lot of people may have a hidden food sensitivity, and it won't even pop up on most food sensitivity tests. Maybe you've had this your whole life and you never had any symptoms. And when you were younger, you could eat these foods, these certain vegetables, and still lose weight. Well, when you get into menopause, what happens is your body gets now sensitive enough, or overly sensitive, where now it affects you and it affects your weight. So this is why a lot of women will say, geez, I've always eaten this. It's like one of my favorite foods. It's never affected me before. Oh gosh, well, this can happen in menopause when your body's going through some of these changes. So you have to be aware of that. Now, I want to talk about the top vegetables that I would avoid. These are the ones that just always seem to cause problems, and they're very high risk. Okay, number 1, super high risk is tomatoes. This is critical. Now, I have made some other lessons about different foods and combinations and certain foods that cause inflammation and stuff like that. I'll go ahead and put that up so you can go and check those out. But tomatoes are just so bad. Now, for many reasons, right? One of the reasons is because it's a nightshade. Some people don't do well with nightshades. There's a lot of other reasons. And someone asked me the other day, well, why tomatoes? Why? And I said, I don't know. I haven't found anything in textbooks. And this is the difference between when someone is coaching like me for 20 years and you know thousands and thousands of people, you see patterns that aren't in textbooks. There's no explanation for it. It just happens so frequently. And tomatoes are one of those things. It causes people joint pain, inflammation, weight gain, bloating, canker sores, weird rashes, all sorts of stuff. Then when they go to Italy and they eat tomatoes, it's fine. So clearly it's something with how we're raising them and growing them here. But that's number 1. Number 2, believe it or not, arugula. Now see, this is really interesting because I used to have clients who were from Australia. They don't call it arugula out there. They call it rocket. And so my clients would be losing weight. And then all of a sudden they would stop, or they would start going back up in weight a little bit. And I was looking through their food journal, their food logs, and I would see something said rocket. Well, here where I live, we have like rocket candy stores, rocket fizz candy stores. So my mind thought, well, maybe it's like a drink. It's like a soft drink or something. So I asked them, I said, are you having like a soda? What is this? What's rocket? And they said, oh, you guys call it arugula. I said, oh, we'll cut that out because it's high risk. A lot of times it causes problems. Sure enough, they'd cut it out and then their weight loss would continue. Now, the tricky part is if you're one of those women who buy the spring mixes from the grocery store, it's got arugula in it. So a lot of times my clients will buy the spring mix and then wham, they start gaining weight or they stop losing weight. So you want to be careful with that. Now, the next one would be Brussels sprouts. I had a client named Lynn in her 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and she was having all these headaches, chronic migraines, like every single night, like 3 a.m. I guess it's every single morning, and would wake up, never got good sleep. And we cut out a lot of different foods. And then we figured out that obviously she knew gluten was causing it in flour, but we also found out that cherries, Brussels sprouts, and turnips. Not a lot of people like turnips, but she did. But those were causing her migraines. So when we pulled those, not only was she able to lose weight, her migraines went away completely. She never had another migraine. So she actually got full night's sleep. She wasn't in pain anymore. This is the power of different foods. Okay, the other 2 I would talk about would be broccoli and cauliflower. Again, I'm not exactly sure why specifically they cause problems, and it's going to be different for everyone. One reason it could cause problems is because these are high sulfur vegetables, and some people don't digest that very well at all. These are the certain vegetables, the top 5 that are popping almost all the time, that you want to be very careful of and can absolutely prevent you from losing weight. It's so tricky. Let's look at number 2. The second thing are chips and crackers. Now, for some of you, you're like, duh, okay, chips and crackers, hello. But what I'm talking about is a lot of times people will do what they think are healthy chips or crackers. These little crackers with the little seeds and nuts, or things like a cassava tortilla chips or something like that. Well, here's the deal. Sometimes my clients will have tortillas, corn tortillas, cassava tortillas, things like that. And they do great. It's wonderful. But when they have the chips, they'll do, what's the difference? When they make chips, they fry them. That's what makes the chip. That's what makes them crispy. They fry them in oil. And that changes the whole composition of the chip. So I'm not, obviously, like potato chips, yeah, those are bad. Most people know they're bad. But I'm talking about these other chips that a lot of people think are healthy. Or what about these crackers, these nut and seed and weird crackers that are, you look at them and it looks like they took a bunch of seeds and just pressed them all together. Those aren't good either. Because in order to make these types of crackers, they have to grind things down and then reconstitute them into the cracker. And in that process, it changes the molecular structure of the actual food, which is going to have a completely different effect on your body and the chemical reactions in your body. And these aren't good. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have them. What I'm saying is if you're having these things and you think you're doing something healthy and you're not losing weight, this could definitely be a culprit. You would want to pull it out. Now, the other thing you have to remember is a lot of these nut and seed crackers are going to be high in both carbohydrates and fats, and they're not the correct types of fats. And these are the types of fats that can contribute to inflammation. And that will raise your insulin, and it can trigger your cortisol and be rough on digestion. So even though everyone says, oh, they're so healthy, oh, you got to eat more, that's not necessarily true. And in many cases, when you hit menopause, you don't have that leeway. Your body's too sensitive now. And so something like this that could be subtle will prevent you from losing weight. In fact, most of the time, something that's subtle is preventing you from losing weight. That's why it's so hard to identify. And people get stuck in this trap where they're trying to figure everything out on their own, and they'll spend 10, 20 years thinking, oh my gosh, I'm eating so healthy. Why can't I lose weight? And then they never figure it out because they are eating healthy, but they're not eating correctly. And you can see already some of the subtleties. So you have to take that into consideration. Let's look at the third type of food that could be preventing you from losing weight in menopause. This would be nuts or seeds or nut butters. Why? Well, I just kind of mentioned that. Crackers and chips aside, even the raw nuts, the nut butters, the raw seeds, these are the wrong types of fats. And the problem is we overconsume them because people say, oh, it's an essential fatty acid. So what most people hear is, oh, that means I need it. That means it's a good fat. That means I should eat more. No, that's not what it means. You can have too much of anything. Yes, essential fatty acids you do need to get from food, but too much is still bad. And the nuts and the seeds and the nut butters are too high in the wrong types of fatty acids. And so when you have those types of fats, they can get stored as fat, they can cause inflammation, they don't help your body as much. Now, there's certain types of fats, omega-3, and there's a couple different types of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, DHA, ALA, and those can reverse insulin resistance, they can reduce inflammation, they oftentimes don't get stored as fat. Now, certain nuts may have some of those, like walnuts, but the majority of nuts don't. And you're better off getting those types of fat from fish anyway, because different types of the fatty acids. But regardless, you have to be careful of the type of fat. Now, here's something else you want to consider. Most people think that nuts and seeds and nut butters are protein. And they think, oh, this is great. I'm getting protein. Everyone says how good protein is. Well, there are different types of protein. And if you were to look at the label on a jar of nuts, yes, you would see protein, but it's not the right type of protein. And nuts are really a fat. Okay, there's a teeny tiny bit of the wrong kind of protein in there. The rest of it is fat. So what happens is people are eating these nuts or seeds or nut butters thinking they're getting protein when really you're getting extra fat, and it's not even the right type of fat. And all of this will contribute to preventing weight loss, especially in menopause. Again, this is the difference between eating healthy and eating correctly. Ideally, you want to do both. Obviously, you want to be healthy and be able to lose weight and control your body. This is what so many people miss. It's subtle. There's differences. And your body may be more sensitive than someone else's. So you have to treat it individually. This is why when people are just, oh, I'll just listen to this podcast and watch these videos and get this book and do that, they spend 10 years trying to figure this out with zero results. And they're frustrated and they think it's impossible and they feel defeated when we can figure this out in a matter of weeks when you get with someone like me or the right person who actually understands this. Now, let's look at the fourth food type that's preventing you, and that is certain fruits. We talked about certain vegetables, but certain fruits as well. Why? Well, not all fruits are created equal. Different types of sugars in fruits, different amounts of sugars in fruits, different amounts of fiber. There's the lectins and different things like that. And so certain fruits are really great. They help your thyroid. They help your metabolism. They give you lots of energy. They don't cause you to spike your insulin. They're wonderful. They're amazing. They're awesome. And other fruits are more likely to cause you to gain weight. So let me go over the 3 types of fruit. Technically 4. I'm going to list 4 fruits, but the 3 types of fruits that you kind of want to avoid. The first is pineapple. That is very sweet, very sugary, and oftentimes will cause problems. The second is melons. Now, I said there's categories, but so watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, those typically are not great for weight loss either. And then the last one, bananas, okay? Bananas are also ultra sweet, and they ripen so quickly, and then they get even more sweet, and they can really wreak havoc with your blood sugar and insulin. So the melons, the pineapple, and the banana, I wouldn't consume a lot of those fruits when you're trying to lose weight. And see, a lot of people will put the banana in a shake, and they'll make a protein shake with a banana in it. That's like the most logical thing to do. Well, the shake in of itself digests so quickly, plus the banana, now you've ground it up so it digests ultra fast. That's like an insulin spike waiting to happen. Timing becomes critical at that point. At certain times you can do that and get away with it and even use it to your advantage, but most of the time it's going to slow down or prevent weight loss. Now, especially in menopause, because remember, with all these other components, the fact that your body's super hyper sensitive to stress and all these other things means that you just don't have that leeway. Maybe when you were younger, you were more active, your lifestyle was different. Obviously, your cortisol's different, your hormone production comes differently from your ovaries instead of adrenal glands. So now maybe if you had it before, you were okay, but now that's actually causing weight gain or preventing the weight loss. Again, subtle, but this is how it works, okay? That's why you got to know about the body and how it works and how different foods affect it. And it's taken me 25 years of research and education and trial and error. And I still learn every day. Always keep an open mind, all right? All right, let's finish off with the 5th one. Super greens. This is all in vogue now. They're putting super greens in shakes like Orgain or Organifi or whatever it's called has them. There's the AG1, the super greens. I mean, all of these things. Well, what's the problem with super greens? They take all these vegetables, many of which are inflammatory, grind them up, put them in there. Now they're ultra potent and concentrated. And there's like 20 in these super green mixes. So yeah, when my clients start taking super greens, almost always their weight goes up because they start getting inflamed. Well, how the heck do you know what it is? There's 20 different things in there. And so I always advise against super greens, super green powders. The benefit does not outweigh the cost. Yeah, you might be getting some nutrients, but if you're causing inflammation in your body, that's way worse. And then it stops you from losing weight or actually causes you to gain weight because now your digestion is off, your cortisol is too high, that throws your hormones off. It's this massive domino effect. And so super greens are often the culprit. I never recommend them. In fact, if you're taking them now, I would just get rid of them. Get your vegetables from food sources. Make sure that you're not accidentally eating inflammatory vegetables. That's how I would do it. It's way safer, way more easy to control it and understand what's going on. And then if you do have an issue, you can identify it so much quicker. Now, I am going to put up 2 videos right now. And they're going to talk about other foods you might want to avoid. They're also going to talk about hormones and how foods affect those. Go watch those lessons. They're super awesome. I will see you over there. And I hope this was helpful. All right, I'll talk soon. Take care.